The astrological shift of 2024-2026, a turning point in climate change perception and action. The period from 2024 to 2026 promises a profound transformation in how humanity perceives and reacts to the climate crisis, marked by key astrological transits, particularly the movements of Uranus and Neptune. Uranus, the planet of sudden change and innovation, and Neptune, the ruler of dreams, illusions, and collective consciousness, will play pivotal roles in shaping collective attitudes, particularly around climate change. The interplay between Uranus's grounding influence in Taurus and its communication-driven influence in Gemini, alongside Neptune's transition from the mystical, elusive waters of Pisces to the assertive, fiery energy of Aries, marks a psychological shift in how society processes the reality of the climate emergency. 2024, Climate Denial Amidst Crisis, Uranus in Taurus, Neptune in Pisces. As of the summer and autumn of 2024, Neptune remains in Pisces, a placement it has held since 2011. In Pisces, Neptune encourages escapism, denial, and idealization. During this time, the collective is still enveloped in a fog of confusion, illusion, and avoidance. Despite intensifying climate crises such as devastating heat waves across Europe and significant flooding events, there remains a widespread reluctance to fully confront the issue. Climate denial remains entrenched, even as evidence of the planet's degradation becomes increasingly unavoidable. Uranus, still in Taurus during this period, suggests a resistance to change, especially in terms of how resources and the environment are managed. Taurus is an earth sign associated with stability, comfort, and material security. With Uranus in Taurus, there is a deep tension between the desire to maintain the status quo, Taurus, and the growing necessity for revolutionary changes, Uranus, in how we handle the Earth's resources. 2025, the year of awakening and communication explosions. Neptune enters Aries, Uranus enters Gemini. By early 2025, the tone begins to shift dramatically. Neptune will enter Aries on March 30th, 2025. This marks the end of the Piscean era of denial and the beginning of a new, more assertive and angry phase of the climate crisis. Aries, ruled by Mars, is a sign associated with action, confrontation, and fighting for what one believes in. As Neptune enters this fiery sign, we can expect the collective consciousness to shift from passive avoidance to active anger and frustration. The impact of extreme weather, particularly the blistering heat, will be undeniable, and it is at this point that climate denialism will begin to crumble. The sheer intensity of environmental degradation will evoke a surge of public anger and demand for action. By July 7th, 2025, Uranus enters Gemini, further intensifying this period of heightened communication and intellectual engagement with the climate crisis. Uranus in Gemini is fast-paced, curious, and communicative. Ideas spread like wildfire under this influence, and it is during the summer of 2025 that public discourse around the climate crisis will explode. The anger ignited by Neptune in Aries will now find its outlet in protests, media coverage, and political debates. Social media, news outlets, and public forums will be flooded with discussions, many of them contentious, about the need for radical climate action. However, as Neptune retrogrades back into Pisces on October 22nd, 2025, we will enter a temporary phase of emotional negotiation and reflection. The initial surge of anger from earlier in the year will begin to cool, leading to a phase of introspection and bargaining. The collective mood will shift from outright confrontation to an exploration of what compromises, if any, can be made to balance economic interests with environmental realities. This period represents a collective attempt to negotiate solutions, but it will also expose deep divisions between those pushing for immediate action and those advocating for gradual, measured responses. Winter 2025, disillusionment and depression, Uranus in Taurus, Neptune in Pisces. By November 8th, 2025, Uranus will retrograde back into Taurus, and the collective bargaining phase will fall apart. As negotiations falter and political gridlock sets in, it will become painfully clear that no satisfactory compromises have been reached. The illusion that there could be a quick fix to the climate crisis will dissipate. This realization will lead to a phase of deep societal disillusionment and depression, often referred to as the depression stage of the Kubler-Ross model of grief. As the winter of 2025-2026 sets in, many will feel overwhelmed by the magnitude of the crisis and the lack of viable solutions. The return of Neptune to Pisces will heighten feelings of confusion, helplessness, and a desire to retreat from the harsh realities of the world. Spring 2026. Acceptance and action. Uranus in Gemini, Neptune in Aries. By the start of 2026, however, the astrological tides will begin to turn again. Neptune re-enters Aries on January 26, 2026, ushering in a period of growing resolve. While the anger that accompanied Neptune's first foray into Aries will return, it will now be tempered by a sense of acceptance. The depression of the previous months will have forced a confrontation with reality. The climate crisis is unavoidable, and society must take drastic action. By April 26, 2026, Uranus re-enters Gemini, reigniting the climate conversation, but this time with a new level of maturity and determination. The tone of public discourse will shift from mere anger to productive action. Communication around the climate crisis will again be intense, but rather than being fueled by fear and denial, it will be driven by a desire for innovation, collaboration, and real change. Technological advancements in green energy, environmental policy, and global cooperation will dominate discussions as people rally around the need for swift and decisive action. Conclusion: a critical transition period. The years 2024 to 2026 mark a critical transition period in humanity's response to the climate crisis. The astrological movements of Uranus and Neptune reveal a narrative that mirrors the stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally, acceptance. As Neptune leaves the illusory waters of Pisces for the direct and forceful energy of Aries, the global collective will be forced to confront the realities of climate change head-on. Uranus's movement from the stable Earth of Taurus to the communicative air of Gemini suggests that this confrontation will manifest through intense public discourse and a revolution in how we think, speak, and act on environmental issues. By the spring of 2026, we will have moved through the most challenging phases of this journey. The conversation around climate change will have matured, and while the future remains uncertain, the willingness to take action and embrace new ways of living will be stronger than ever before.